Well, hello, everyone. And hi, Annabelle.
Dr. Belle.
Dr. Belle. This is Ed Peterson. I am a licensed clinical social worker and couples therapist and living in Salt Lake City, Utah. And this is my vlog and podcast titled Therapy, Emotions, and Sex. And I am, I'll tell you a little bit more about me. But I tell you what, right now, Annabelle, I am so excited to have you. And so I'm going to give a quick, probably incomplete description of you, okay? And then we're going to ask you to share with our listeners who you are, okay?
All right.
So this is Dr. Annabelle Bugatti, therapist out of Las Vegas, Nevada, a very important person in my life, a colleague in the emotionally focused therapy world, which is a type of couples, individual and family therapy that both Annabelle and I practice. Let's see. Yeah, she's a rock star in my mind, and she's written books. She has her own wonderful vlog, YouTube video called We Heart Therapy, and she's a supervisor. She's done a lot of things in the therapy world. And so I'm just going to turn it over to you, Annabelle, and tell us a little bit about you, because I'm sure I missed something.
You're wonderful, Ed, and thank you so much for having me. Thank you to everyone who is listening to Ed's podcast and who might tune into me on We Heart Therapy. And I feel kind of a need to maybe explain, like I'm sort of shifting from Annabelle Bugatti to Dr. Belle as like a brand change. My marketing guy recommended it a long time ago. But second is because I also just got married. And so legally, my last name is not Bugatti, but I have so much attached to Bugatti that I'm still navigating about, do I just keep Bugatti for business and just do my married name? But Dr. Belle allows me to just not have the last name matter. And it's kind of kitschy.
So can I call you Dr. Belle?
You can call me Dr. Belle. That would be awesome. Or you can call me Annabelle. Just call me Annabelle or Dr. Belle. But yeah, but my book is in Bugatti. So again, it's like it's going to be around for a while. But yeah, actually, and I don't even have a copy of my book on me. Shame on me. But
I've got it somewhere. I'm not sure where it is, but it's a great book.
I did publish an EFT book last year, and Sue Johnson endorsed it. She gave me a quote, which was a super huge honor. And it was about one of our favorite EFT phrases about relentless empathy. You can find it on Amazon. Just type in the Amazon search bar Annabelle Bugatti, relentless empathy, and it'll come up. And it's really about using how to harness relentless empathy, not just as a feeling, but a therapeutic skill to be able to build alliance with your challenging and most difficult clients. And I offer conceptualizations of, I just kind of kept my ear to the ground and listened to therapists chatter and what the consensus is about some of the themes of more difficult types of dynamics. And so I went off of that and tried to offer some conceptualizations through the attachment lens that helps us access the humanity side a little bit more, just to help us be with. Because again, if they don't feel us with them, their guards are going to be up, and then we can't change the things that we clearly see need to be changed. So the topic of the book is Relentless Empathy, Empathy. And the title of the book again is? Using Relentless Empathy in the Therapeutic Relationship, Working with Challenging and Difficult Clients. It's kind of a mouthful.
And could you also spell Annabelle Bugatti? Because I know that when I was first trying to search you, I would always spell the name wrong.
It's ANABELLE. Last name is Bugatti, like the car. BUGATTI.
Great. So tell us a little bit about that. That's terrific. And by the way, her book is wonderful. It's one of those books that I've read, but I also just kind of go back to, and I'll read a little bit and then think about it. And it always sparks conversation between my wife and I, because my wife is a therapist too. We've read parts of it together, and so I highly recommend it. It's how do I put it? it's interesting, Annabelle, because I think the book is both full of, I mean, it's full of, it's some theory, it's some, sort of logical things, but it's also really full of a lot of heart and full of a lot of your musings and your emotions and thoughts about this work that we do. And so that's
And a lot of experiential exercises to help therapists kind of develop that relationship with themselves around these things as well.
Oh, and I like the sound of that. I think that we'll actually probably dive into that here, and we'll probably do one or two. So,
yeah. And too, I forgot to mention too that you guys might see me around here in Las Vegas, Nevada, because I also am the executive director, the founder of the Southern Nevada EFT, and we do a lot of workshops here. I try to create some unique types of workshops and master classes, especially because it felt like there was a gap in training. There's like a lot of entry level, a lot of basic stuff.
Right.
But then those of us who are more seasoned need to really be fed on a more advanced level. And so I really try to get inventive and meet that need. So, check us out online if you ever have the musing, snveft.com. Come down and visit us. You're all welcome, and I hope you'll come.
Yeah, and I actually
take a picture, get a hug.
I do I call a yearly, it's like a Mecca a trip that I make to Vegas, usually in September, to be with you, Annabelle, for the annual George Fowler masterclass, which I highly recommend.
It's pretty awesome. It's so much fun seeing therapists from all over the world come down. It's so exciting and just an absolute treasure.
Well, and the conversations, I mean, people, again, like you and George Fowler and Ryan Reyna and Lori Watson and so much more, right? So the trainer, Mr. Just a lot, so many people, right? And the trainings are amazing, but also just like conversations at lunch and around the water cooler kind of thing. And I would also like to do this really quickly, Annabelle, and that is that the audience that I'm trying to reach here is a pretty broad audience of therapists, but also people who might be life coaches, people who might be psychiatrists, just people who in general work with clients and work with emotion. And especially, again, trying to focus on different aspects of this. That's why I've called this very broad title, which is Therapy, Emotions, and Sex, because I want to get into a lot of different things. But one of them, I would love if you would take a second and put you on the spot here and give us a quick definition for you of what is EFT and emotionally focused therapy, and a little bit about how long it's been around. And like if you had your elevator speech, someone says, so what is this emotionally focused therapy and EFT thing?
Gosh, put me on the spot. Gosh, is never like a short, simple answer, but
I know, right?
EFT has been around for a long time. It started with Sue Johnson I think as far back as the 90s. And Sue Johnson is so incredible and blazed a lot of trails and faced a lot of criticism to accomplish such a truly amazing thing. And EFT is all about attachment, and attachment is really a theory, a science. It's not so much a theory anymore because we have all the science behind it. We've done tons and tons of research, which is awesome. And it's really a science of human behavior. It's how we relate to each other. It's how we experience ourselves and others in the world, how we move through the world. And so attachment science, EFT, is just, it's a model that helps us learn how to human together better,
Yes.
right? Whether to develop relationship with self, relationship with other, relationship with our boss, all kinds of dynamics can be addressed, relationship in your family. Right. It's just really awesome. And I think, one of my favorite parts of EFT is it just gets to the heart of the matter faster than any other model of counseling. And you know, it's also life-changing. You can't really be super effective at EFT if you don't let it touch you. And when it touches you in your own heart and you allow yourself to do the work with it, to grow with it, it will just revolutionize and transform you. And it's so amazing, even just for us as a therapist. Yeah.
Well,
I love EFT.
I love it. I love that.
I'm a little nerdy EFT here.
Yeah, I think you and I both are EFT nerds, and that's great. Although my wife tells me she'd like me to be able to shut it off sometimes, because I talk about this pretty much all the time. But here's the thing: I want to do something that we do as EFT therapists. Is one of the first two interventions are we reflect and we validate, right? So I want to reflect and just repeat a couple of things that you said. And one of them, which is a phrase that it's okay, if it's okay, I'd like to steal it from you, is you said, it's how we human together, right? You just use that as a verb. I love it. How we human together. And that to me cuts at the heart of my experience with EFT and with attachment. And then just, to validate what you're saying, especially about how to really do this work as a therapist, and I think to be effective, and to go back to what your book is about, Relentless Empathy, right? Is that we can't do this work without being touched by it. I mean, I'm even feeling it right now. So I'll just, throw out some vulnerability here, because this is one of the things I want you to do, and I like my guests to do, is one of the things that we talk a lot about and we help our clients look at is this thing that we call view of self and view of other, right? And that is because in EFT, a lot of times, well, all the time, what we're trying to help people do, we call it affect assembly, is to make sense of what happens when they get triggered, like what happens to their body, and then what's the feeling that emerges, and is there a word for the feeling? And then instantaneously, what do we think, right? And I usually will have, if I'm in therapy with my partner, I'm usually going to quickly have a thought about her, and I'm going to have a thought about me, right? And then the question is, what do we do with that, right? And so for me, like coming onto this podcast today, I was feeling anxious and a little nervous, because I look at you as a senior person and a person with a lot of wisdom, and so I naturally, but what I did is, to work with that, I kind of just like talked to myself and said, hey, it's okay that I feel a little bit nervous, and it makes sense because, we have an audience here, and hopefully I won't say something stupid, or I won't stutter, right?
I think that's so normal, Ed, because, at the same time, I'm like, part of me gets surprised, like me, like you would be nervous around me. Like sometimes I feel like an EFT idiot, know?
Right.
So it's like super vulnerable. I think I've come to learn that it's just kind of vulnerable no matter what level of the game we are, that even our trainers, our mentors, the people that we see who have gone before us, they still get stuck. They still have emotion. They still, have doubt sometimes. And I think we just kind of all see ourselves in it together,
Right. Great. Well, and here's a question that I want to ask you, that I've been asking people, that I've been getting some really interesting conversation from, and interesting things that come up with my guests. And that is this: if you look at your work in the last month or so, because you see a lot of clients, you do this a lot, and it could be with clients, it could be in trainings, could be wherever. And if you wanted to just pick out one difficult or distressing emotion that you have felt, maybe take a second and give us a little context, right, into when you felt that difficult or distressing emotion, and how you, one, make sense of feeling that emotion, and then what was the context like, and then what did you do with it, like that.
So great question. And really kind of what I think I hear you saying is, how do I step into the model and apply it to myself when I'm going through something?
Yes.
And it is super hard And especially it really depends on the type of relationship, the context, because in a leadership role, I have people that I supervise or mentor or sit on a board with that I lead that may feel things, and we get kind of pulled into a cycle. And it's like, how do I not feel the punches that come from the cycle? It's like, how do I be in the cycle, not be in the cycle, right? Because as a leader, I don't have the luxury of showing that, of reacting that I might where with maybe my spouse or a best friend or someone. And not to say that I would do anything hurtful, but again, the context is I don't really have the luxury of being in it, but I'm in it at the same time.
Right.
So that's really hard. But, it's been super helpful in my relationship with my spouse and just really getting to know me and make sure I'm giving clear signals, and also just understanding him and his process and finding a way to understand him and get him to, because my partner's a withdrawer, my husband, and I'm a pursuer. And so, there's times where it's like, I'll just notice suddenly, like, I'll get really activated. And so I just step into it. It's like something just happened. What alarm bell went off, and I'll give you like a really silly example, but I think it's really poignant. So I come home one day and we just redone our closet, and my husband, like, we had this nice IKEA closet that he worked so hard at building himself, and we built together, and it was amazing and beautiful. And then I come home from work and I see this rolling clothes rack with clothes hanging on it. And instantly I like flood it. And he's like, whoa, like, what's the problem? This is a clothes rack. And because of his own walk of life and his attachment experiences, when I activate, he sees danger. The meaning he makes is I've done something wrong. Whereas for me, it was almost like the same thing, but he shuts down and goes away. Whereas I like, ah! So I thought,
right. So what was the feeling? Like, because you saw whatever you saw.
Yeah.
You felt what?
So I went inside and I was like, okay, what did that mean for me? Because I got angry, but I also was scared, right? So the meaning of that clothes rack was that we're not together. Like, I was given this belief that we were in this closet thing together. This was our mutual space, because this happened when we just first moved in together.
Right.
And that clothes rack meant like something else was happening, that maybe I thought we were together, but we weren't really together, because here he is not using the closet, he's using this rolling rack. And so it happened.
And is it almost like in your head, you quickly made the connection of, well, wait a minute, we didn't agree on this. Wait a minute. Yeah. He seems to be making an executive decision. This is our shared space, kind of like,
or more that I thought we were connected on the closet, and then that rolling clothes rack meant that maybe I was misassumed or misunderstood or given a misexpectation that we weren't really connected on the closet like I thought we were. And so I had like 1,000 messages, I felt that attachment panic, like, oh my God, like he doesn't really love me, or, he's already not feeling safe, that he's got to appease me and tell me what I want to hear versus what's real. And none of that was real for him.
And this all can happen in about five seconds or less, right?
Less than 5, it's like a millisecond.
Okay. So, and then what, like in that moment, if you're feeling all of that, thinking all of that, what was your action? What was your action tendency? What did you do?
Well, I started to question, like, hey, what's this about? But I was already activated, so he could feel my temperature rising. He could feel my animation that came out, even though I didn't come after him with criticism, but I did come after him with a shift in my voice and questioning, like, what is this? Like, why is this here? Right. And again, from the tone of my voice and my questions, because I asked him, like, what message did you get from me? And he said he heard he did something wrong, and so he didn't know that I was infusing all these attachment messages into this clothes rack. For him, it was like just a clothes rack. Like, he had particular clothes that needed to hang dry. So he was hang dry. Just simple for him.
But so within less than a minute, you're applying your attachment and EFT experience to what's going on. You're checking in with him and you're even asking him, like, what's he thinking or what meaning is he making?
Some of the questions, well, that process came later, because immediately as I activated, I started asking questions. He got defensive, and then he started shut down and walk away. And then him shutting down, walking away is like, wait, where are you going? Why aren't you talking to me? I need you to talk to me. And luckily he's like a super engaged withdrawer. So eventually he was able to talk to me, and we were able to talk through the process. And again, I used my skills of, this is what that meant to me. This is why I got so upset. And he was able to clarify it did not mean any of those things for me. And then I was able to get close to his experience and ask, like, when I got excited, when I got animated, when I got frustrated, when my tone of voice changed, and I started asking, what message did you get from me? And he said that I had done something wrong.
Right.
And I was like, okay, yeah. I was like, that wasn't the message I was trying to send. In fact, it felt like maybe I had done something wrong, that you didn't feel safe to tell me your truth, and that we were misaligned, not connected on our truths. So
right, you see, and oh wow, this is great. This is fascinating. Because I want to throw a little neuroscience into this, right? Which is, when you're saying that you got activated and you got, maybe the word, you got flooded quickly, and then you threw out, the things that you started feeling, right? Which were, connected to fear and connected to some kind of distress, and what we would call in the attachment world, there was some kind of a threat. There was some kind of a threat to, and what I would say, a threat to something that meant a lot to you, right? And because if this person didn't, it's like this: if you walk into a TJ Maxx and a lady has a rolling piece of furniture with some clothes on it, and you look at it, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's neutral, right? You're like, okay, that's just that. And then, but in this case, boom, this triggering event suddenly means so much. You get activated, your amygdala starts to vibrate, starts to go, right? And then in this cycle, he picks up on it, of course, and we can pick up on our partner in a nanosecond, right? And then you're off to the races. But what I love is how you repaired it, with how you came back, right? And this reminds me, a quick example from my relationship is this, and I'd love you to comment on both. Want to hear more about yours, and then you comment on mine. This was actually last fall on a hot day, September, Salt Lake City. My lovely partner and wife, Candace Peterson, asked me to go outside and dig a deep hole, about 2 or 3 feet, 2 feet deep, for a big bush plant that she wanted to plant. It's hot. I said, great, I'll do that at 10. I went out, and it took me probably an hour of pretty hard digging with a pick in dirt that was pretty hard, right? So I'm sweating. It's just about done, right? It's just about done. I'm out there working, and then I see Candace walk out on our little deck, right? And the first thing she does is she looks at the backyard, which is a backyard with a trampoline in it and a bunch of kid stuff and a bunch of kind of stuff all over. And her comment, she kind of looks, scans, and sees me and looks at the backyard and says, God, this backyard is such a mess. I hate this. We have got to clean up all this clutter. And she goes, ugh, right? I immediately got triggered. And my trigger immediately was, really? Like, you're going to walk out on the deck, and the first thing you're going to say, you're not going to come and look at the hole that I dug. You're not going to pay attention to what I did. And so, right, the meaning that I placed on her saying that was not just that she was noticing a backyard that actually was kind of messy, but that she wasn't seeing me, that she didn't appreciate me, that she wasn't going to appreciate, that I was doing all that work and I wasn't going to get credit for it. And oh no, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm triggered, and I said something to her snarky in my triggeredness, like, I think I was like, oh really, that's what you're going to say? That's how you're going to talk to me after I just dug this hole? And she looks at me. I was quite mad. And she looks at me and just goes, and walks away, walks back in the house. I'm mad. I stew for a couple of minutes, and then I follow her back in the house because I'm a good pursuer in my anxious attachment. I follow her around the house, and I'm like, let's talk about this. I want to talk about this. And she's like, I don't want to talk to you right now. And so she was withdrawing. I was pursuing. And within an hour or so, we worked it through because I cooled down and I started asking myself, wow, Ed, what just happened? Like, what was that threat? Like, you got so triggered. And I was asking myself a question. I did the same thing I think that you did. I started asking myself, what was the meaning that I put on it? And then I asked her the same question. We worked it out in about an hour or two, right? So any comments on that and maybe how that relates to the story that you told?
I love to hear that you're in the process. And I think this is part of kind of what I mentioned earlier about letting us grow in the model, being able to allow it to touch us. And it is super hard to when you're the one in the cycle, right? In the therapeutic room, it's like, oh, it's their cycle, it's kind of outside of me, so it's so much easier to solve their problems. But when it's me being pulled into a cycle, being able to see myself in it and use and apply the tools, the methods that we use with our clients on ourselves. And not a lot of therapists have mastered how to do this. And I think kind of what we're both painting is how we both step in the model and we use what we apply to clients to ourselves to understand ourselves in this place, to figure out what's happening and why it's happening, the meanings associated, so we can give ourselves a clear signal. It's like fighting the cycle from the inside out.
Right. And I would imagine in your story, your a little anecdote from your life that within a couple hours, you two had talked that one through, right?
Yeah.
And your fear and your upset kind of calmed down.
Mhm.
And what I would say is I would guess that at some level, the threat calmed down, and what came over you was a sense of actual trust and a sense of, like, this is a man that I can trust to work this through with me.
Yes, absolutely. And my husband is really amazing and I've not had this experience in other relationships, which is part of why I'm with him. And this is a safe, securely attached relationship. And I didn't get to have that before, is that when I try to get close to his experience, he's willing to take a look on the inside and come back to me with that information. Whereas I've had others who have said, oh yeah, I'll take a look at that. And they never do, and they never come back. And that's like super hard for a pursuer. So, he helped me understand him. He helped him understand me and what it's like to receive me. And it was just super helpful. And, just being able to talk about it and him to, but again, I think part of what helped the process is me being able to see myself and make sense of it and give clear emotional signals, where I was able to tell him, this is what that meant to me. It was not about you've done anything wrong. It was about me worried that we weren't connected, that I had misassumed that we were together, or that maybe you were appeasing me, but really didn't feel safe to tell me how you really felt or what you really wanted. And he was like, it was nothing about, like, it was really that simple,
Right.
So it was really great exercise to work through that process. So.
Well, yes. And that reminds me of a Sue Johnson video that I watched once, where she was actually doing a live therapy session at an EFT training. It was an externship, and she was working with a couple where the man was a military person, quite a withdrawer, and the wife was a very escalated, angry, scared pursuer. And as Sue was doing the work, and then she would pause, and then she had gone back, was talking about what she was doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
She talked about exactly what you just talked about. She was trying to help them get clear on this. When you hear your partner say X, Y, or Z, which they just said, what are you hearing? Like, what does that mean to you? Meaning, trying to understand for this other partner, what is the story that they're making up in their head, or just the way it hits, not just what are the words, but what's the meaning? What does that mean to you? Right. And I watched her really break through a couple cycle that was really aggressive. And, the husband was able to say something about, well, because the wife just was going off and angry and crying, and the basis of it, or the core of it was, you're just, you just don't love me, and I just don't this, and all I want is this, and all I really want is just a little bit of love. And if I could just get a little bit of love and a little bit of care and a little bit of etc. And she was going so fast, right? And Sue kind of slowed her down and then went to the husband and said, like, what's the meaning that you're getting? And the meaning that he got was, I'm never going to make this woman happy. There's no way that, given all of these things she's saying and feeling, that I can ever even respond to this. I don't even know what to do with all this, right? And Sue validated that and really reflected that, and then went back, to the other partner and talked about, what was, and the meaning that she was getting from her withdrawing partner was, you just don't care, and you're not there for me, and I can't trust you, right? And I just love that, and I think that, boy, I think our listeners, whether you're therapists or life coaches or psychiatrists or just regular people out there who maybe have been in therapy, you're trying to make your life better. It's a great thing to think about, don't you think, Annabelle, this thing of when whatever happens, right? Whenever I just want to get triggered with my kids or with my job or with my partner, what's the meaning that I'm taking from what's happening, right? Because that's what we are. We are meaning-making machines, right?
Mm-hmm.
And any thoughts or feelings about that?
It's just an automatic process that humans go through. It's something that we can't stop. It's just part of our survival, just like we're walking down the road and we see a snake, right? Our brain is designed to give off a danger cue, and there's a meaning assigned with that automatically of that's dangerous, right? And our brain, our survival instinct comes up and says, get out of the way, right? Just survive. It's not, the prefrontal cortex isn't able to be online where we're able to think, well, 70% of snakes are not poisonous. So the probability that this is a poisonous snake, right? We're not designed to problem solve first. It's survive first, and attachment is survival. So, yeah.
Right. And so, and that example is a great one, because wouldn't you agree? And maybe you could share with us, a setting maybe clinically where you've seen this, where that meaning making, where one partner is getting quickly triggered by another partner, right? What they say, and how the message comes through so fast. And maybe the message is, what I'm hearing is, I'm going to be left, or I'm going to be, he's out or she's out, or I'm going to be rejected, or maybe I'll be rejected, right? When maybe the other partner is really not saying that at all. The other partner is just talking about their sadness or talking about this or that, but yet the one person gets triggered so quickly, and like you're saying, goes to it really like a survival response. And I think people don't, I've had to learn that. I don't think people really understand how we're really not as logical as we think. We really respond quickly, as if it is. We see that stick and it looks like a snake and we are jumping, right? So can you share with us a situation where maybe you saw that or something?
Well, just the experience that I just shared, that clothes rack was the snake on the street,
Okay, yeah. Right. That was the snake, right? Yes. I love it. So, wow, there's so many different directions I'd love to go with this. But let me do this. In the time we have left, which, wow, only about 8-10 minutes. This has gone really fast. I'd like to have you back another time, if that's okay.
I'd love to be back.
Okay.
I probably have more about like 8 or less minutes, because I do have clients that I have to see, unfortunately. We're
How
always
about we
working,
go
guys.
how about we go for 5?
Sure.
Okay. So let's say this. We're going to do this. We'll take 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes. And I'm going to ask you one question about what you would say to me if I were a struggling therapist and you were doing some supervision with me. And then let's take the last 2 minutes. I want you to repeat more about you, where you practice, where people can find you, maybe a little bit about We Heart Therapy, right? So quickly, if this is the role play, I'm just, I'm feeling scared, and I'm not, I'm a new therapist, and Annabelle, I just feel like I don't know if I can do this, and I just feel so overwhelmed sometimes by these really reactive clients that are just they're just yelling at each other and moving so fast, and I just don't know what to do.
So in that place, I would probably just kind of meet you there, and what comes up for you right around this place when it's like maybe a lot of emotion comes alive in the room. Is it certain kind of reactivity? Is it anger? Is it sadness? Is it any emotion?
Right.
What really happens inside of you right in this place?
So you would be trying to help me see in those moments, what's the internal experience for me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then I probably would go to
with supervision. This thing is like, the cycle we track as a supervisor is what happens between the dance between you as the therapist and you as the model and the couple.
Yes.
Like you and the couple and the model are in a dance together, and what happens in that dance.
Right. Yeah. And because I'm a supervisor in training, just about certified. And that's one of the things that I find myself talking a lot about with my supervisees is it's really managing this feeling of being the imposter and the feeling of just, I don't have enough.
Which we all struggle with.
I don't have enough experience, or I don't have enough this or that, and I'm not going to.
And that's probably the number one thing that comes up for therapists in supervision around self of the therapist is, am I good enough? Am I doing a good job? And we all suffer from it. I'm an EFT supervisor. I've been an EFT supervisor for a couple of years, and there's still times where I get stuck in session. I'm like, well, if I was EFT trainer Scott Woolley or, Becca Jorgensen, then I wouldn't be stuck. They wouldn't be stuck here. You suck, you suck, you suck. And that's what I start to go to,
Exactly.
So it's just so common for us all to have that place. So I think if you do struggle with that, lots of empathy for yourself and recognize you're not in it alone, that we all go through it. No matter how much you think we've got it at our level of the game, we definitely still have those feelings.
Right. We've got it. And this is really hard work that we do, right? Awesome. Okay.
Absolutely.
So just to wrap up, again, this is great. Oh, I'm so excited about this. Tell us a little bit more about where you practice, where can people find you, and all that.
So I practice here in Las Vegas. My website is just drbelle.com, DRBELLE.com. You can also find my channel on YouTube, We Heart Therapy, and the series specifically around EFT is EFT Talk, though I have a couple series going. And of course, my book on Amazon, but you can also reach out to me via email. I'm on the listservs for therapists and supervisors for ICEPT. I'm on Facebook, and I really enjoy hearing from therapists around the world. Have developed some amazing connections, and just really love being with you guys in this journey of learning EFT. So, if you want some camaraderie or connection in that place, reach out to me because I would love to connect with you.
Well, I want to say thank you, want to say namaste, want to just say this is so great. And you're my colleague, you're my friend, and boy, I learned a lot from you, Annabelle. So again, thank you. And folks, thank you for joining us. And really soon, check back here. We'll have more interviews, more conversation about therapy, emotions, and sex. Again, I'm Ed Peterson. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.